Duchess did something surprising this time. They reportedly snuck aboard a commercial flight for their return trip. According to the Daily Mail, a social media user tweeted about how Prince Henry, Prince Harry and Meghan were on our flight to LA last night. Apparently, the couple got onto the plane moments before it took off for a trip, which takes about 5 hours. We were held up for about 20 minutes from our departure time, and they were snuck into the last two seats. The user continued per the publication. Quote, we didn't even know until a girl waiting to get off the plane next to us pointed them out. I couldn't get my phone out fast enough, but it was them. And now to story 2. San Diego police, along with San Diego's fire rescue, responded to a vehicle accident on the 6400th block of Montezuma Road. When first responders arrived, they found that a Jeep SUV had struck a commercial vehicle that was parked along the street. Per scanner traffic, the passenger of the Jeep was possibly ejected from the vehicle at the time of the accident. The female driver did not sustain any injuries. The passenger was transported to the hospital with what appears to be major injuries. The female driver was evaluated for DUI. The female was uncooperative when asked to perform field sobriety tests. The female was ultimately arrested for suspicion of driving under the influence. The San Diego Police Traffic Division will be handling the investigation. And now for our story 3. While many folks enjoy Thanksgiving Day, crime took a pause in the Houston area after the holidays. ABC 13 tracked at least 6 people killed, 3 hurt from separate shootings and a stabbing. We reported a shooting on Midfield Drive at about 3:30 a.m. on Thursday. According to the deputies, a man was shot in the back outside at a stop-and-go convenience store. The rest of the Thanksgiving day and night stayed quiet. That didn't last long, though ABC 13 tracked 4 separate shootings and a stabbing on Friday. On Saturday, we tracked 3 different shootings. In a total, since Thanksgiving Day, 6 people were murdered and 3 people were hurt. Of the 8 crimes that happened since after the holidays, 2 suspects have been detained. And now for story 4. It took police 74 days to arrest Ahmaud Arbery's killer. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation says the primary reason for this delayed justice is former Brunswick District Attorney Jackie Johnson for her alleged role in preventing a proper investigation. Johnson, 49, was indicted September 8th by a Glenn County grand jury on charges of violation of oath of public officer and obstruction and hindering a law enforcement officer. Her indictment states, Johnson was booked into the Glenn County Jail for about an hour on a $10,000 bond, but she was released on her own recognizance, which means she didn't have to post a bond. Johnson rescued herself from working the Arbery case and recommended Waycross DA Georgia Barnhill take over. She sought assistance from Barnhill before turning the case over to him. The indictment states that Johnson failed, quote, to treat Ahmaud Arbery and his family fairly and with dignity. When, end quote. When she didn't disclose that, she went to another Georgia DA for assistance with the case. Johnson says she rescued herself from the case because one of the killers, George McMichael, previously worked in her office. The indictment states that Johnson showed McMichael, quote, favor and affection during the investigation, end quote. Johnson also knowingly and willfully directed two Glenn County police officers not to arrest Travis McMichael, contrary to the law of said state. The indictment states Travis McMichael is Greg McMichael's son. Both men were convicted of numerous murder charges Wednesday, along with William Rudy Bryan. Bryan joined the McMichaels in chasing Arbery, taking cell phone photos of Travis McMichael fatally shooting Arbery at close range with a shotgun. And now, a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. And now for Story 5. They're grateful for their love story, which all started when a hot brick crashed a New York City woman's Thanksgiving 24 years ago. Dina Honor was hosting a holiday meal in her two-bedroom Brooklyn pad for friends stuck in the city back in 1997. When the romantic encounter occurred, she told CNN. Honor, 27 years old at the time and getting over a recent heartbreak, was happy to host her pals, but shocked when one brought in unexpected guests. Quote, I was not happy, end quote, Honor told CNN. But then I got a look at him and I said, okay. The hunky stranger was 25-year-old Richard Stigl, who was invited last minute by the brother of a friend. I didn't know what Thanksgiving was at the time, to be honest, and I had no idea, Stigl said. Growing up in the UK, I was vaguely aware, but I had no idea of the significance of the holiday whatsoever. Stegel ended up at honors dinner after her friends realized they'd be out of luck for a restaurant meal, with most closed on the holiday. Now to our story 6. When King's Theater began offering a Thanksgiving luncheon 5 years ago, it was a nice way to serve the community, but it was transformed into a necessity in Flatbush. Volunteers and students from the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism at Eramus High School served up a turkey and trimmings to all comers. Quote, I thought that even though it's Thanksgiving, I could help, said a sophomore Paris Butler. The need for that helping hand is certainly there, according to Zena Best, a local resident who's been coming for a few years. Before, when it was first started, they were dragging people in, Best said. Now people are coming because they don't have money to spend. So everybody's coming. It hasn't really been this full before, but today a lot of people really need it. Frank Hillslop has also been coming since the luncheon at the theater began 5 years ago. He has seen a change over not just the last 2 years, but also the last 2 months. I live alone, Hislop said. Sometimes I have my own food, but sometimes I go to the church, so I'm not afraid to take food. Food is very expensive. For many sitting down in the tent next to King's, it will be their only Thanksgiving meal. For insecurity is something that we've been tackling since the top of the pandemic and even before the pandemic. We've definitely noticed inflation at local grocery stores. Everything is way more expensive, said Brooklyn Councilwoman Farrah Lewis. And now to story 7. A woman is dead and her teenage son is in police custody after a shooting in Dallas on Friday afternoon. According to the police, officers responded to an abandoned child call at 1202 McLean Avenue at approximately 4:34 p.m., police said. When officers arrived, they found that 2-year-old child had been dropped off at her great-grandparents' home by an unknown individual. The child was supposed to be with her grandmother, police said. According to the police, the great-grandparents became concerned for the well-being of the child's grandmother and requested a welfare check at the grandmother's home at 4743 Linacre Drive. Police said the victim, 47-year-old Amy Salinas Alvarado, was found dead inside her home after suffering a single gunshot wound to the head. Though the cause of the investigation, it was determined that the victim's 15-year-old son shot and killed her before taking the child to the great-grandparents' home, police said. According to the police, the suspect took his mother's vehicle and went to a friend's home. Police said the suspect was taken into custody without incident and provided a full confession to detectives. And now for story 8. Wisconsin's 2 senators, Senator Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, teamed up Saturday to urge groups or individuals trying to exploit the Waukesha tragedy to cease and desist and let local law enforcement agencies do their job. Coming from different sides of the aisle, the Democrat Baldwin and Republican Johnson highlighted the bipartisanship in their plea, saying that they both have full confidence in local law enforcement agencies who are investigating the event that led to the deaths of 6 people during the Waukesha Christmas parade. They have many difficult duties to perform in the coming days, weeks, and months, and they should be afforded the respect and support they deserve to undertake their responsibilities without interference, the pair wrote to their statement. They added that these tasks will be made more difficult in a politically charged environment and credited local officials with showing extraordinary professionalism, competence, integrity, and compassion. The senators pointed out that beyond the criminal investigation, the officials also need to focus their efforts on confronting and supporting victims' family members. These will not be easy tasks and will be made even more difficult if conducted within a politically charged atmosphere. The statement continued. Darrell Brooks faces 5 counts of intentional homicide, with a sixth one expected in the coming days following the death of an 8-year-old boy. He is accused of driving the SUV into the parade, killing the victims and wounding more than 60 more people. The senators went on to encourage people to show their support by praying for the victims, their families, and the Waukesha's community. And now, a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. Now, for Story 9. Israel on Sunday approved barring entry to foreign nationals and the use of controversial technology for contact tracing as part of its efforts to clamp down on the new coronavirus variant. The health ministry said in a statement that the country's coronavirus cabinet had authorized a raft of measures, including relisting travel to 50 African countries, banning entry by foreigners, and mandating quarantine for all Israelis arriving from abroad. It is also approved use of the Shin Bet internal security agency controversial phone monitoring technology to perform contact tracing of individuals confirmed with the new Omicron variant of coronavirus in Israel. Israeli rights groups had decried the use of the cell phone monitoring technology as a violation of privacy rights, and the Supreme Court ruled earlier this year that its use be limited. The Association for Civil Rights in Israel said in a statement Sunday that resuming the program via emergency regulations is a blatant disregard for the rule of law, and pointed to the court's ruling that the tracking had not proven effective in preventing the spread of the virus. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said Sunday that tightening Israel's borders will help keep the country open internally. Restrictions on the country's borders is not an easy step, but it is temporary and necessary step, he said at the start of the weekly cabinet meeting. Dr. Ren Balassir, head of the government's advisory panel on COVID-19, told Israel's Khan Public Radio that the new measures were necessary for the fog of war surrounding the new variant, saying it was better to act early and strictly to prevent its spread. On Saturday, Israel said it had detected the new strand in a traveler who had returned from Malawi and was investigating 7 other suspected cases. The 7 people included 3 vaccinated individuals, and all were placed in isolation. And now for story 10. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 7.5 struck northern Peru early Sunday, damaging some buildings and blocking several roads with rubble. While the earthquake was extremely strong, it was relatively deep, measured at 112 kilometers or 70 miles, which usually reduces the possibility of damage and casualties. The quake occurred at 5:52 a.m., and its epicenter was in the Amazon region, 42 kilometers or 26 miles northwest of the city of Barranquilla. It had a magnitude of 7.5 according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Part of the 16th century church in the La Jorca district in the Amazon region collapsed, and 3 people were slightly injured. Mayor Walter Cocuy told Peru RPP Radio. Falling stones blocked several highways in the Amazons and Cajamarca region in Peru. And the tremors were felt nearly 800 kilometers or 500 miles away in the capital of Lima, where some people rushed out of their homes in alarm. A church in the Loja municipality in neighboring Ecuador was also partly damaged. The tremors was also felt in part of Colombia and Brazil. Earthquakes are common in Peru, which falls within the Pacific Ring of Fire, where 85% of the planet's seismic activity takes place. And now for our story 11. Actress Lindsay Lohan had told her followers on Instagram that she's engaged. Lohan announced her engagement to her boyfriend, Bedar Shemas, and showed off a traditional oval diamond ring with a photo of the couple looking happy, locked in embrace. Quote, "My love, my life, my family, my future," the post read. The 35-year-old Mean Girl star has been based in a skyscraper stud city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates for several years. Hollywood celebrities seeking to escape the spotlight long have flocked to the flashy Emirates, where there is no paparazzi to track the many VIPs who hole up in the luxurious villas on the city palm-shaped artificial islands. Little is known about Shamas, a Dubai resident whose LinkedIn page says he is an assistant vice president of international wealth management at Credit Suisse. Before joining the Swiss bank that serves some of the world's richest people, he works at BNP Paribas, one of the largest French banks in Kuwait and Bahrain. Since moving to Dubai, Lohan has kept a low profile and said that her partying days were behind her. She is slated to appear in the holiday romantic comedy released by Netflix, co-starring single and songwriter Chord Overstreet. Cord Overstreet, sorry. On Instagram, she also said she's launching a new podcast to share intimate conversations with thought leaders and friends. And now for story 12. Skirmishes on Saturday erupt in Serbia between police and anti-government demonstrators who blocked roads and bridges in the Balkan country in protest against new laws they say favored interests of foreign investors, devastating the environment. Hundreds of people on Saturday appeared simultaneously in the capital of Belgrade, the northern city of Novi Sad, and other locations to block main bridges and roads for 1 hour in what organizers described a warning blockade. They pledged further protests if the law on property expropriation and referendum weren't withdrawn. Police officers blocked the demonstrators from reaching the bridges, which led to skirmishes as police helicopters flew overhead. The protesters then marched around while managing to stop traffic at Key Bridge in Belgrade and in various central streets. Organizers said a number of people have been detained. Police earlier have warned that any blockade of bridges is illegal. A number of environmental groups and civil society organizations are angry that the authorities have lowered the referendum threshold and allowed for swift expropriation of private property if deemed to be in the public's interest. Activists argue this will pave the way for foreign companies to circumvent popular discontent over projects such as the bid by the Rio Tinto company to launch a lithium mine in western Serbia. Serbia's authorities have rejected the accusation, saying that the new laws are needed because of the infrastructure projects. The country's autocratic president, Aleksandar Vučić, said a referendum will be organized on the Rio Tinto mine. Environmental issues recently have drawn public attention as local activists accused the populist government of allowing for the devastation of nature for profit. Experts have warned that the planned lithium mine in western Serbia would destroy farmlands and pollute the waters. Following decades of neglect, Serbia has forced major faced major environmental problems such as air and water pollutions, poor waste management, and other issues. Serbia is a candidate nation for Europe's Union entry, but little so far has been achieved with regards to improving the country's environmental situation. And now, a short break from our daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. Now, here's our story 13. The World Health Organization on Monday is pushing for an international accord to help prevent and fight future pandemics amid the emergencies of a worrying new Omicron COVID-19 variant. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus also said many uncertainties remain about just how transmittable and severe infections by the highly mutated Omicron might be. Tedros joined leaders like ongoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Chilean President Sebastián Piñera for a long-planned and largely virtual special session of the UN Health Agency members stated at the World Health Assembly. The gathering is amid devising a global action plan towards preventing, preparing, and responding to future pandemics. The emergency of the highly mutated Omicron variant underlines just how perilous and precarious our situation is, Tedros said, calling for a legal binding agreement that wasn't mentioned in a draft text seeking consensus on the way forward. Indeed, Omicron demonstrates just why the world needs a new accord on pandemics. Our current system disincentives countries from alerting others to threats that will inevitably land on their shores, he said, saying that the South Africa and Botswana, where the new variant was detected in South Africa, should be praised and not penalized for their work. That was an allusion to travel restriction announced by many countries on air travel to and from regions. Childros said the WHO scientists and others around the world were working urgently to decipher the threat posed by the new variant, saying, "We don't yet know whether Omicron is associated with more transmissions, more severe diseases, more risk of infection, or more risk of evading vaccines." The world should now be wide awake to the threat of the coronavirus, but Omicron's very emergency is another reminder that although many of us might think we are done with COVID 19, it's not done with us, he added. A draft resolution set to be adopted by the World Health Assembly stops short of calling for work towards specific establishing a pandemic treaty or legally binding instruments sought by some, which could beef up the international response when, not if, a new pandemic erupts. Now for our story 14. Swiss voters appeared set Sunday to approve by a clear margin legislation which introduces a special COVID 19 certificate that lets only people who have been vaccinated, recovered, or tested negative attend public events and gatherings. A projection by the GFS Bern polling agency for public broadcasters SRF after voting ended show the measure, which is already in effect, winning the backing of 63% of those who turned out. The referendum offers a relatively rare bellwether of public opinion, specifically on an issue of government policy to fight the coronavirus in Europe, currently the global epicenter of the pandemic. The vote on the country's COVID 19 law, which also has unlocked billions of Swiss francs in aid for workers and businesses hit by the pandemic, came as Switzerland, like many other nations in Europe, faced a steep rise in coronavirus cases. The Swiss federal government, unlike others, hasn't responded with new restrictions. Analysts say it didn't want to stir up more opposition to its anti COVID 19 policies before they face Sunday's tests at the ballot box. But that if the Swiss give a thumbs up, the government will ratchet up its anti COVID efforts. Rejections of the legislation will end the restriction as well as the payouts. In recent weeks, opponents have raised heaps of cash for their campaign and drawn support from abroad. On Tuesday, Swiss health authorities warn of a rising fifth wave in the rich Alpine country, where vaccination rates are roughly in the line with those in hard-hit neighbors of Austria and Germany, at about 2/3 of the population. Infection rates have soared in recent weeks. And now for story 15. A Muslim mob burned a police station and 4 police posts overnight in northwest Pakistan after officers refused to hand over a mentally unstable man accused of desecrating Islam's holy book, the Quran, authorities said Monday. No officer was hurt in the attack, which forced the police to summon troops to restore order in the Sharsada district in the Kaibir Pakhtunkhwa province. Local officer Asif Khan said. A video posted on social media showed the police station burning. Khan said officers foiled an attempt by the mob to lynch the detainee, and the police moved him to another district. He did not disclose the name of the man, saying the officers were still investigating and the suspect was arrested a day ago. Khan said officers initially resisted but fled after thousands of demonstrators attacked the police building. He said the police avoided the use of force to prevent casualties among demonstrators. The situation in the Sharsada was normal Monday, he said, and the law enforcement was seeking to arrest people linked to the attack. Blasphemy carries the death penalty in Pakistan, where mere allegations of the offense are often enough to provoke a mob violence. International and domestic rights groups say that the accusation of blasphemy have often been used to intimidate religious minorities and settle personal scores. In 2017, a group of students in Abdul Wali Khan University in the northwestern city of Mardan attacked and killed another student, Muhammad Mashal, after accusing him of sharing blasphemous content on Facebook. A Punjab governor in Islamabad was also shot and killed by his own guard in 2011 after he defended a Christian woman, Asaya Bibi, who was accused of blasphemy. She was acquitted after spending 8 years on death row and receiving threats, left Pakistan for Canada to join her family. And now to our next story. Story 16. The new, potentially more contagious Omicron variant of the coronavirus popped up more European countries on Saturday, just days after being identified in South Africa, leaving governments around the world scrambling to stop the spread. The UK on Saturday tightened its rules on mask wearing and on testing of international arrivals after finding 2 cases. New cases were confirmed Saturday in Germany and in Italy, with Belgium, Israel, and Hong Kong also reporting that the variant has been found in travelers. In the US, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the government's top infectious disease expert, said he would not be surprised if the Omicron variant was already in the United States too. We have not detected it yet, but when you have a virus that is showing this degree of transmissibility, it's almost invariably is ultimately going to go essentially all over, Fauci said on NBC television. Because of fears that the new variant has the potential to be more resistant to the protein offered by vaccine, there are growing concerns around the world that the pandemic and associated lockdown restriction will persist far longer than hoped. Nearly 2 years since the start of the pandemic that has claimed more than 5 million lives around the world, countries are on high alert. Many have already imposed travel restrictions on flights from Southern Africa as they seek to buy time to assess whether the Omicron variant is more transmittable than the current dominant Delta variant. In Britain, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said it was necessary to take targeted and precautionary measures after 2 people tested positive for the new variant in England. Right now, this is the responsible course of action to slow down the seeding and the spreading of a new variant and to maximize our defenses, he told news conference. Among measures announced, Johnson said anyone arriving in England must take a PCR test for COVID-19 on the second day after their arrival and self-isolate until they've provided a negative test. And if someone tests positive for the Omicron variant, then he said their close contacts will have to self-isolate for 10 days, regardless of their vaccination status. Currently, close contacts are exempt from quarantine rules if they are fully vaccinated. This was our daily local news update of Millennium News 24/7. Log in to get the latest news. Our all social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel is Millennium Channel M24. Viewers now on both network broadcasting Android and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, also all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment, the latest news and views. Our Millennium TV Apple, Millennium TV USA Android, Millennium News Google, and www.millenniumtv24.com. Stay tuned with Millennium News 24, and thank you.